Okay. Afternoon. We got Public Works today. I'll just turn it over to you, Savannah.
All right, perfect. Savannah Clement, Public Works. Good afternoon. We have a pretty light agenda today, but first thing I wanted to start with was our weather event that we ended the week with last week, which I think I sent the board an email, and we had updated Facebook quite often for the public. One of the reasons I wanted to bring it up is we're trying to, every time we have an event, we really try to look at what was the good, the bad, the ugly. How do we communicate with the public? What's some of the feedback we got from the public, and what are some of the things we could do differently internally? And a couple of the different things we're looking at is what we've been seeing, and this isn't just with weather events, this is also with the I-5 construction this summer. If you recall, we had a lot of traffic going through Green Mountain. We had to do local traffic only, close it down. And we encountered the same thing with this last week's weather event with I-5 closing. Is what we encountered was all of our side roads were taken over by people using, GPS navigation, taking them through routes they weren't familiar with, semi-trucks weren't familiar with. That's what really caused us the most problems last week. Wasn't our normal local traffic causing those problems. And so we were looking into avenues, routes to close down these roads with the GPSs, so the Google Maps and the Waze maps. So we're working on that internally on how we can get that communication over to those apps so that they're not directing people to use those side roads, whether it's a weather event or construction, trying to keep those people off of our local roads. So we're looking at that.
Whenever I see a lineup of semis coming down the west side, I always say, well, something must be wrong with the freeway.
Exactly. And that was really the root of our problems last week. So anyway, just some things, lessons learned. Another thing I wanted to talk about related to weather events. I've been researching mass notification systems and how they can help Public Works and also provide information to the public. I had started this about a year ago, and I got a lot of other departments involved, and then we had a lot of changeover in those departments in IT and a couple other ones, and so we paused on that. But what I've been trying to do is take notes, during these events and what we could be doing better as far as notifying the public and having the public notify us. And so I just wanted to let the board know that's something that's going to probably come up in the next month or so. I'd really like to get something in place before our next season. Before construction season would be great even, but really before our next weather event. And so what I'd like to see out of a product of some kind is, again, the ability to notify people through geofencing. So if we have people on West Side Highway that were in that general vicinity where we're having that road closure, being able to notify them right away in real time. If they opt into being notified, right? Not just notifying them because we can. Although mass notification would have that ability in an emergency, we'd be using it's a name for it, and it's FEMA's name. Anyway, the ability to utilize essentially reverse 911 in the event of an actual emergency. So it would have that capability as well. But anyway, being able to notify our residents if we have a water main break, notifying those ratepayers right away. We've had instances where we actually had to do door hangers to tell them, or knock on doors. And so this kind of notification would alleviate that. I was also looking at doing it from a facilities maintenance standpoint. So if we have an issue with a building, if we have no power on this floor, we'd be able to notify everyone, not just via email, but they could do phone calls. We've had instances at Public Works where we had no power, and when you have no power, you have no email. You also have no phones. So we would have the ability to notify people's cell phones and things of that nature. Or if we have an event where we have a person in the building that needs to be escorted out, we could tell people, stay in your office, things like that. So that's the types of stuff we're kind of exploring to utilize this. I do have some pricing and some quotes, but I wanted to be able to offer other departments information who may want to utilize this service to do some more demos. So those will be coming. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up and see if you had any feedback on that.
Yeah, actually, I spent time with Larry over at the emergency, and they have a system that does that. I actually asked them about it. And the reason I brought that up was because of our conversation on our conference call with regards to all the emails for the business closing from, everybody's different time frames, who's closing what, that type of thing. And when they were explaining to me the program that they have, I asked if we could use that internally. And I think she said she was going to research it. We can. There's a limitation to the number of, how many times we can send it out. But I'm glad that you're doing that because that's definitely, if we're not doing it, we need to be. I think it's a good option for us. The other thing I was going to ask, since you brought that up with regards to the weather events, do we have a standardized policy as to when we decide to close down, and do we all do that, and how do we communicate it, and what happens with that?
Yeah, so Kelly, she just walked away. Maybe she can hear me. But Kelly worked on the emergency closure policy, I think right when she came on board. So that has been revamped recently. And there is a policy, like in a practice in place. And essentially, in order to do building closures, that has to come from the board. And normally there'd have to be some kind of sense. So say only Commissioner Dahl's here, Kelly would work on contacting the other two commissioners, they would kind of get a vote, and then we would have the call made, which can come from a single commissioner as long as the rest are kind of notified. So that's how it's worked. We've also had instances where we had an emergency on a Sunday, and I contacted Kelly, Kelly contacted the rest of the board, and we went from there. So even if it's like on an off day, but requires an emergency declaration of some kind, that's how that would function. You just stepped out, Commissioner Rader. Had a question about like emergency closure and protocol and a policy. It's kind of just talking about how it's functionally worked, but I don't know if you had anything to add. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, we do. We just redid the policy last year. I can pull it up and send it to you guys so you can read it over, and if you have any questions, you can ask. The best person about the employees would probably be Jessica with Human Resources, but we did do a new policy to kind of define it a little better.
Does that include the other electeds also? Do they fall into that policy?
They determine their hours.
They have the ability to determine their own, like if the Superior Court judge, if we say we're closing, they don't have to. Neither does Emily or the other electeds. They have that authority. It's a little bit more formal because we're a public entity. When I was with the credit union, we just said, you'll follow your local school, because we had a lot of employees with
Parents,
children.
yeah.
and-
All over the county.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so it was easier. If your school's open 2 hours late, we're gonna open 2 hours late type thing. Ours is a little bit more formal because we're a public entity.
I was thinking about that after I left, talking with Larry. If, like, to your example, Rick, if the courts decide not to close and somebody gets hurt because of ice, somebody slips and falls, and we have a claim, that we're liable for that, right? Even though we have a policy in place that says, hey, we closed down, they decided not to.
It would probably go through the tort claim process, and however they determine, we certainly could be, yes, would be my guess.
Well, it's gonna depend on the department too, right? The sheriff's not gonna shut down.
Yeah.
He just manages to deal with the weather.
Mhm.
I mean, and there's another elected official. I'm wondering, and I just met with Larry just a couple hours ago. I spent a couple hours with him. They've got a Facebook page that they
Mhm.
post their stuff on, and depending on the level of emergency and the information that they have on hand and what they put out. But something like that, I guess what was surprised to me was their Facebook page. They have 25,000 followers, and they, on this just recent snow event, of that 25,000 followers, they had 10,000 shares.
Mhm.
To, God only knows, that at least went to 10,000 more people, if not 3 or 4 times that. So, I'm wondering if something like that, I didn't realize how that Facebook is set up, as long as you update a current posting.
Mhm.
So if I have a posting and then he shares it, then they see what I posted. But if I update that without putting a new posting, if I just update that posting, it automatically goes straight through everybody he
Yep.
shared to. They get
Yes.
to see all the updates. He doesn't have to share it again.
Yep.
I didn't realize that's how that worked, but that's fascinating to me. I mean, what a resource.
And that's honestly the primary way we communicate with people. That is, we were on Facebook all day Thursday, updating it, and that is our #1 way to communicate with the community, which is great but also can be problematic in that we're not reaching always the exact people like that we would want to reach in certain locations, which is why, trying to get information to people that are directly affected was kind of my primary goal in this notification system, just by their address location. But we had 700 new likes just from Thursday to Friday. We had, I think, 20,000 views on a video because our road crew people are the ones that are out in it, and they send me updates and they send me videos, and it's great because that's what people want to see. We can tell them the roads are slick, but when they see a picture, they're like, oh man, I'm not going, and so that is truly the way. But one thing I would like to improve on is we only know what we know. So we only know what our folks out there on the roads are telling us or what they see. So many people were messaging our Facebook page saying, hey, that semi just got moved, a tow truck came. Like we wouldn't have known that because we weren't there. So I was able to kind of update just based off of people's feedback, which I thought was great. And they were sending in pictures. So it was a great way to communicate with our community. I just think it'd be great if we had a way that people could, like I said, text in pictures. And so it wouldn't just go to our Facebook page, which only 3 people manage. It would be, we would get communication to more people and more effectively. So going back to Commissioner Rader's comment on the DEM, working with DEM, they are the #1 agency that we communicate with during an event, Larry and his team. And they were also involved in the demonstrations that I did about a year ago. Their notification system is based off of essentially bricks. So they get to send out XYZ amount of notifications per year with their contract. And so if we were to kind of piggyback with theirs, we'd have to increase their amount. And the notification system that they have is just a little bit different than kind of what we're looking for, because we're from a public works standpoint looking for also kind of like a work order system. So if, I pick on you too. I'm going to pick on Commissioner Farrell. So if Commissioner Farrell is going out of his driveway and he sees that there's a tree down and there's nobody responding, he can, instead of calling 911, he could do that too, but he could also text in an update, and it creates a work order for us that notifies our road crew at 5 a.m., hey, there's a tree down on this road, here's a picture because he sent one in. So that kind of thing is also the feature that we're looking to kind of capitalize on that this provides as well.
Good to know. Next time I'm going up my driveway, tell Mike he's going to get a call.
It's not ready yet.
Yeah, leave that chainsaw on the garage.
Yeah.
We'll have another.
Yeah, don't worry about responding. No, but that's the kind of functionality we'd like to.
I can see where the geofencing, in my opinion, geofencing would work a lot more efficiently because of the reverse 911 is only if people have signed up for it.
Correct.
And B, if I'm in Los Angeles and I get it on my phone, you don't know if I'm home or not. But obviously if I'm outside the area, it doesn't affect me, but I can see the message. But again, it's only if people have signed up for it.
Yeah. Yep.
The geofencing would hit everybody within that
Correct.
fenced area.
Well, we would have to, the difference is if we do an emergency geofencing, it doesn't require the opt-in, right? And it has to fall in with whatever FEMA tells us we can do that under. Like, let's say water sewer emergency, we would have to have people opt in because it's a localized emergency. It means they're not getting water. They would have to opt in. So we have to, we just have to go with those kind of guidelines or get in trouble. But yes, they would be awesome.
And do they have to opt in for their landline or their cell phone? What are they opting in for?
Either one, because it also can give phone calls. So say you don't have a cell phone or you don't have service, you can do a landline, or if you want both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The landlines are almost gone and
Yeah, I have a landline because I have 2 teenagers at home, but
Yeah, I do too.
I had a landline and I shut it off several years ago now, but try to get one put back in your house. If you take it out, boy, the odds of getting it put back are almost zero.
Mhm.
The phone companies will not do it.
So this product, if it was big enough emergency, like you get an Amber Alert on your phone, it would do that type of thing if it was
It just wouldn't be.
met certain level.
Correct. It just would be more, it wouldn't be, we would not have the ability to do like what Amber Alerts do, which supersedes, everything takes over your phone. We would just be able to do the text alerts or phone calls.
Just
It wouldn't be like a,
text message.
correct. It wouldn't go off in a meeting like this, right? Like Amber Alerts do.
Yeah. Usually in the middle of the night.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't have that ability, but we can notify people. So anyway, that's just, again, it's a project we're working on. It'll be brought up again. So,
I love Amber Alerts because on one hand, we tell everybody, don't text and drive, and then all of a sudden, beep, 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 beep.
and yeah, everybody,
What are
yeah.
you doing? Everybody's grabbing their phone. And
Yep.
and you're trying to help them solve a problem. I understand that, but what a.
Yeah. When we're all in the car at the same time, the 5 of us, and then Amber Alert goes off, it's just like, yeah, a little
Yeah.
discombobulating. Okay. Any other questions on the weather events and or mass notifications?
No, I want to say that your guys' department did a great job
Thank you.
within the county. You did.
Appreciate it very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Very good.
I'll extend that to our crews too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, if Sean come up, he's going to talk about some fuel contracts.
Afternoon, Commissioner Sean Rowe, Public Works. Just want to talk about fuel for a little bit. So last year and many years before that, we participated with the State of Washington DES fuel contract. And great works with Wilcox and Flegel. At the end of '24, they gave us very short-term notice that they were canceling their contract. We've been enjoyed working with this vendor in the past and the services they provide with us. We've been trying to find another means to keep this going. Just for some historical values, in 2024, at the landfill alone, we did $580,000 worth of diesel fuel. On average, we're about 500 to 750 gallons per day, and they directly fill our machines for us. In ER&R and motor pool,
So they send a truck out and,
daily.
okay,
And they fuel the machines directly from their truck and our tanks at the office as well.
okay.
So is that, they only have to fuel those once a day? They're good for the whole day on a tank?
Usually,
Okay.
if we're running something real hard, we might have to get that tank in the back of the pickup out and refuel a little
So
bit.
we don't get a tanker truck a second time. We
We
just,
only once a day.
once a day. Okay.
And then our DEF and gasoline are on tanks as well, but those are not direct filled from the truck there. ER&R and motor pool, we do about $217,000 in 2014, and of diesel, and gasoline was about 411,000. So we go through a lot of fuel.
Well, I guess.
So we've been searching for a new option here to continue working with the vendor that's we've enjoyed working with and gives us great service at our facilities. We went through a few different iterations trying to find one that we could piggyback on without having to go back out to bid. We were able to land on the state of Oregon's fuel contract. It's very similar pricing as what the state of Washington has, except it does not have any delivery fees, which is a great bonus. And so we just wanted to talk to you about this and make sure you guys were okay with it. It is a large dollar value that can change throughout the years. It's a % over what they call rack pricing, direct from the rack where they get it at. And depending on the fuel type, that varies a little bit.
Prices go up, we go up. If prices go down, we also get the benefit of that.
Yep, we follow exactly along those lines. The profit margin is a fixed value at that point in time.
I mean, that sounds
it-
reasonable.
No delivery fees, you said?
No delivery fees on this one. Yes, sir.
And since it's Oregon, no sales tax, right?
We still have to pay, the state taxes and things like that
Yeah.
on the gasoline. Diesel,
Nice try, though.
Yeah. Thought I'd throw it out there.
we don't pay the diesel fuel tax at the landfill. It's off-road only.
Where do they haul out of?
Most of these haul out of the Portland area. That's
Really?
the main hub, and that's the pricing hub for the rack prices in our area.
Okay.
And no delivery fee.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
On the previous contract, depending on the vendor, it varied from $125 a load to $1,500 per load.
That was the delivery fees?
That was the delivery fees, yes, sir.
Ooh.
So outside of the landfill, we do have a few other bulk tanks throughout the county. At our road shops in both Kalama and Castle Rock, we have 10,000 gallon fuel tanks for both diesel and gasoline. And those are mainly used for emergency purposes as well. That's why it's such a large value. We keep stocked in those.
What- Wilcox give any indication why are they just getting out of it with the county or are they just getting out of it?
I don't want to speculate on,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know if they gave us a reason. They just,
The state did not give a reason.
Well, I don't know, it kind of seems like we're gonna have to go someplace, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So this should be coming before you in the next few weeks, but I just want to talk with you and just have a conversation because it is such a large dollar value.
Yeah.
Mm.
Y-
We're
You're,
not-
you're a numbers guy, so I'm gonna divert just a hair with you.
Sure.
If this road tax, per mile tax comes in, have you started looking at anything what that does to us, if anything?
I haven't read into the details of it yet, and all the exemptions that may come with it. Oh, here's the
Is
one that
commercial
knows.
exempt?
So the road usage charge, so the diesel off-road would still be exempt. Commercial vehicles are not, and that is one of the things that they've been trying to work out on how to figure out how to equitably do that for interstate trade.
Yeah.
So that is one of the big glitches with the whole system. I know that Washington State is one of the first states trying to push this because we the state, they want it to try and get out ahead because if you set it up, you end up having way more input on how it goes nationally because this is what all of the transportation professionals think we're going to end up on because of the more fuel efficient vehicles. It's harder the motor vehicle tax is going down, but people are driving more miles. These battery operated cars are actually heavier, so we're putting more strain on our system because we're running heavier vehicles across our roadways and bridges. So this is the way they're looking at it. Washington has one model. I believe Texas has a slightly different model. I'm trying to remember the third state that's moving fast to try and get things in place. And then I think what's going to happen is the national fuel tax will eventually also go away and we'll have a nationwide one that we'll be paying into also. That is what the prognosticators, if you can call them that, in the civil engineering field are saying what they see federal highway funding going towards also. One of the other things, I don't know if you've seen in the legislature, is a big one that some of the other states have rolled out are charges for every package delivered.
Yeah,
Because that one is another one because
50
what?
cents, I think,
50
Is what
cents, yeah.
Washington's looking at.
But
That's a package? I thought that was at 35 cents last time I saw.
Yeah, I think it's looking at 50 now.
Oh, my.
and it's if you do over a certain amount of business, you have to pay it, and if you do under, you don't have to pay it. So they're looking at that as, well, because 20 years ago, how much did we order online? Now it's, oh, I need a new toothbrush, and you go and you order it online. I mean, so that is why they're looking at that as another, besides the road usage charge, on how to pick up some of the commercial uses.
We went to war for pennies on a breakfast beverage years ago, and yet here we are, just one thing after another getting.
Yeah, they find creative ways to get in your wallet all
Yeah.
the time.
Hey, 40 years ago, I remember two things that never forgot. One was they were gonna have a chimney tax. If you had a chimney on your house, you had to pay a tax, whether you used it or not. If you had a chimney, there was gonna be a chimney tax. The other one was a garden tax. You had to submit the square footage of your garden so you could pay a tax every year on your garden space. And I've never forgot that those two things caused such an uproar. They disappeared in a hurry.
Yeah,
But here's, I'm waiting for it to pop back up on the dang list.
probably will.
It's going to be a hen house charge because you're getting cheaper eggs.
Yeah.
They're gonna surcharge your eggs, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure it's coming.
I have no doubt.
Okay. A little bit of a rabbit hole, but thank you.
Mhm.
And are those contracts annual contracts that we have with them? Or is it just a renewable that just goes? until we-
The Oregon State one we piggybacking off of would expire at the end of 25. There are multiple year additions available there that we'd probably want to take advantage of.
Mhm.
But we'll keep an eye on the situation and what the state does and go from there.
And basically, we're not violating any public meeting, we don't have to put this out for bid or anything. This is the option that we can go forward with it, if just approve it.
Yep, so we can piggyback off of this. We'll see the actual contract and agreements in front of the board here in a few Tuesdays. Piggybacking is where you use someone else's contract to buy a product or service.
Okay.
So it's pretty common. We do it quite often around.
We do have, stipulations we have to follow to piggyback. When you hear that term, it has to meet essentially our purchasing policy. And then also state guidelines to use another entity. And we can really only use other municipalities, so states, local governments, and cities. So cooperatives are another purchasing route we can go if we're part of a cooperative agreement, which is normally, it includes like school districts a lot, or other like government entities that may not be like local state, city governments. So you might hear that too as a piggyback or a cooperative agreement as another way.
And even we've seen some of these, what used to be state contracts is they're actually utilizing these cooperative purchasing agreements instead of themselves doing it.
What's a commonly used, NGA?
NASPO,
NASPO.
NASPO.
Those are terms you'll probably hear or see. All right. We have
Sounds
one
good.
more item.
Thanks.
Susan?
Haircut looks
Thanks,
nice,
Sean.
by the way. Haircut looks nice, by the way. Mhm.
Delayed by the snow.
Good job.
I already got mine for 2025.
Yeah, that was a month and a half ago, right?
Yeah, 10 more months, I'll get another one.
Yeah, I got mine too. Both of them.
One extreme to the next.
Oh, I didn't bring a bunch of them. I just brought things. So one of the things that we've been discussing with building planning and among public works, so building and planning has to update their comprehensive plan. And the current comp plan, all comp plans are required to have a transportation section. And the level of our transportation section is not very robust. So I've been starting to look around, see what other counties have in their transportation section in the comp plan. Try and decide how I'd like that bus to navigate, and how much energy we want to put into it and time, because it sets us up for, if done with a lot of energy, you can set it up to, and I'm not going to go this far, picking all the exactly where you want all your road improvements and necessary needs. I think our transportation plan needs to be more robust and have things like, we should be working forward towards having a parallel route to I-5 from Woodland to Kalama, looking at an alternate east-west running from Lexington out to Cathlamet. Start looking at those and saying, hey, these are some of the corridors and long-term goals we want to have, so that we're making sure that we're not developing in such a way that we will not be able to do this in the future. So I guess I'm just looking for a feeling from the board, how much information you want us to be moving forward on as we start rolling into this. Should this just be a real grassroots, here's some real sketchy ideas? Should I be looking at getting a consultant on board through our as-needed contract to give us a little bit more? I really want to know how the board would like us, what your feeling is on how we should be looking at this moving forward before I start expending a lot of energy and I go this way, and you guys really wanted me to go this way, then this way.
So some context to the transportation plan, in what problem we're trying to solve, right? So we're a non-GMA county, and there's not a lot of us left. And because we're non-GMA, we don't have to have such stringent transportation guidelines like other counties have. And we're talking about private roads, and we're approaching that. And a lot of our comp counties, I think all of our comp counties are GMA. So they have a really solidified program to follow. we don't, which kind of leads to some of our issues that we have surrounding private roads, because we're really kind of taking it, we have not loose guidelines, we have a memo that establishes the process and approval. And that's being, revamped with the BPAC. And we just don't have a long-term transportation plan in place to be able to reference or guide developers, people purchasing property who want to build, until they get to a point where it's like, oh, you're the last lot, and now you have to construct a type XYZ road. If there was something in place that was, a guiding document like a comp plan, which is the transportation is a part of, it might help that process when we get to things, sticking points like private roads and how many is a large lot, how much is a small, short plat, and what we needed to do for private roadways. So that's kind of the background a little bit as why this kind of got brought up. And we're going through a comprehensive plan update at the same time. Did I say a lot that was dangerous?
Yes.
I usually do.
So I just kind of I really wanted to put it out there for you guys to start thinking about what you guys really see as what you want as the vision of our roadways. I don't want to handcuff developers, but I also think that we as a community need to be thinking about what is important to us. Do we think long-term that we need a road from Ariel to Tootle? Do we need to be thinking about that and keeping that in the back of our mind as development occurs so that we don't make it impossible, or nothing's impossible, it just takes money, excessively expensive to do in the future? And it wouldn't be a setup with, this is the exact corridor. It's more of a, we need something that goes around in here. So let's not handcuff ourselves, so make it that it isn't possible. So I will bring back more information once I start gathering my thoughts a little better, but this is something that goes on in the back of my mind at 2 a.m. when one of the dogs barks and wakes me up.
So I'm wondering, what's the time and effort difference between a not so robust program and a robust program? I don't want to see you spend so much time on something that maybe could be what if, but the general idea sounds good to me to have it a bit more robust than it is now.
And that's kind of where I think we need to go. I think we need something more robust than what we have, but not something like Snohomish or King County has. I want us to have something more the level of what like Lewis County is looking at, with more of a guidelines. And we think in the future we should be looking at another arterial in this area, not we know that we need a road that starts at the intersection of Coal Creek and McAdams and runs from that intersection due west and ties into this road and this road and this road to make it an east-west connector. That's not what I just think we need to have a more of a, this is what we think our plan needs to be, more of a broad base, because I think broad-based, we know we need that I-5 parallel road. And feels pretty strongly that we need something to run on north, east-west north of SR4 because of all the slides that happen out there. So more of a generalization. Maybe someday, I shouldn't say this in public, maybe someday we'll get a road from Riderwood that actually connects you to Cowlitz County somewhere that you don't have to go up to Lewis to come back down. So those type of things might be worth us looking at.
So to move to that level of planning, would you need to be doing outside consultants, or would you just stay just below that need?
It all depends on the staffing. We're right now, I would have to shift around a lot of priorities to go to that lower level of planning right now.
Okay.
But that ideally, it would be nice if we could do it in-house. I mean, we have myself and 2 senior engineers who have been in this community for more than 20 years, that we have a good idea of where we know our problem points and pressure points, like when we get I-5 closures, when we get SR4 closures, where do people scatter to, and where are the complaints that I can't get from Castle Rock to Fred Meyer's anymore? I know, for example, a lot of people from Castle Rock will go out Delameter and swing all the way around to get to Fred Meyer just to avoid town. Things like that. A lot of us who've been here for a while know how people drive and know the things that we do to avoid certain areas.
Yeah, I've been told more than once I'm the only fool who does the speed limit on Delameter.
Well, Susan, there's a couple things that you said that piqued my interest. One with regards to the GMA. So if I heard you correctly, what you're saying is that because we're not part of a GMA, we would be able to do things more cost effectively, proactively right now.
Yes, we could have a much lower, looser plan than what they are required to have.
Okay. The other thing is, I like that you're being proactive with this because I've thought multiple times as I drive from Woodland to Kalama until you get to Kelso, as you're driving north, this whole side of the freeway is nothing but mountains and hills. So there's not much flat land that's developable, that we can develop on that side. And Vancouver is moving north to Ridgefield in the center, and and the north is moving south. So I agree with you that if we can be proactive and position ourselves to where we can take advantage of that growth the way we want to take advantage of it, as opposed to reacting to, okay, well, this is where we're at, so this is what we get type of a scenario. So I'm for you, being proactive and coming up with a plan. But like Commissioner Farrell said, it's also something that I don't know that, we want it to take up all of your resources and all of your time right now, but getting it started and working towards it, I think, is a good idea.
I would support
You say
that.
we were one of the few counties that have this, right?
That are non-GMA and do not have one.
What, and do not have it, so other counties have this? A lot of
So
Other counties have a plan in place?
all GMA counties are required to have it.
Okay.
Um,
And how long has it been in place, do you know?
I don't know.
Is there any data that shows that it's helped?
I don't know.
Or is it just a document that sits there, and what kind of restrictions does it end up applying to landowners and people?
And that would be why we would be looking at one that's more of a concept than I know, when you develop in Clark County, they're very particular. We have 169th Avenue planned to go from county line to county line, and it has to be within, this band. That is not what I'm looking for. So the developers are very hand-tied of what they can and can't do.
Yeah, I'd be
I'm more of a,
seeing additional rules that don't cost somebody some money.
right.
So I'm very protective of these people and their land, and if we say we're gonna go through here and now they can't use it anymore, that would be a problem with me.
And that is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking at, we know we want an east-west road. If you're developing, let's say if you did own the parcel that ran between Coal Creek and Germany Creek, those aren't the right roads, but you had a parcel that ran through that whole thing and you were about in that band, I would say one of your roads shall be a public road that we will expand in the future. I wouldn't tell you exactly where you had to put it, but it would have to be loose enough that we can work with the property owners and still for them to have their property rights. But I'm not going to tell you, you own this parcel, I'm coming through no matter what. That's not my goal. My goal is to have a good idea of,
And I
Vague.
fully understand that, and I believe you, but I don't know a decade down the road whose goal it might be.
true.
So if we put anything down that you're gonna ask me to sign off and say, we have to have some protections for the people of this county is what I'm gonna tell you. And so the more general, the better would be my guess.
Okay.
Would it be helpful to just send, I mean, you've done some research, maybe send a copy, not exactly what we're gonna do, but just to give you guys an idea of what it entails. At Lewis, I mean, theirs is really robust, Lewis County, because they're GMA and they have to have very specific.
Yeah, I know, and why they would opt into GMA, I don't know why they did. Well, I know why they did, because they got money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it was the 70s. Was it the 70s that they were all pushing? Hal Palmer was involved. He knows.
Yeah. Yeah.
He brought it up at a VPAC meeting. I was like, whoa. So yeah, anyway,
So does that help there?
Yes.
I want to go down another rabbit hole because we're trying to get these in, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this, at all this. Woodland Port, this tax increment district that they want to put in.
Yes.
You're the
Funds
numbers
coming up.
guy, and I'm concerned about this because over the 25-year period, it basically freezes our level for the county, and that's county and the roads.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And it freezes some of the fire districts, and if you look at the projections, that's about $30 million. When you look at the county and the roads, that we won't, that normal growth would give us, that we won't be there, that it all gets shoved to Woodland Port. And I struggle with that a little bit, cause I don't know why they think they have a better idea what to do with it than others do. Do you guys have any concerns with this thing you're seeing, or? I mean, you can be honest, because I'm gonna tell them I have concerns.
I actually am scheduling a meeting with Jennifer to have her come and do a workshop for us with regards to that.
Yeah,
Because when I looked at the map and when I brought it up with these guys, when I met with them, there's a county road that goes through it, through the designated area that we're responsible for maintaining, and we're not collecting any
yeah.
fees on that. So there's definitely some issues, and when I went through the packet, one of the things that it says on there that there's gonna be increased tax revenue to help offset that, and I'm like going,
Well, that's
where
the
does
thing.
that
Yeah,
come from?
we can make it back, but it means then we're raising rates on
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Where does that come
And-
from?
And I know you guys will be hesitant to come up during a workshop to tell them it's a stupid plan, but you can tell me it's a stupid plan and I'll tell them it's a stupid plan.
Yeah, what are your concerns?
So, yes, I have looked at it. Not only is it a concern for the county and the road fund, special purpose districts. So this would also affect the Woodland Library District if it extends out into the bottoms.
That's
They
the
were,
city of Woodland too, right?
Yeah,
yeah, they left out a good portion of the city because they strategically picked anything that they thought might develop. So if you look at the map that's strategically drawn, so anything that's already developed that's tax value won't go up, is not included in the area. But all of the larger lots, especially the farmer fields or parcels that the port owns, is included in that area because any improvement on it becomes then part, anything
The value raises so quickly that
quickly,
they get big
they
dollars
get that.
for it.
So
Yeah.
that's why they did not include anything that's outside of it. It will impact our roads. So I've had several conversations because CDID number 2 was very concerned about this at first because obviously it has a big impact to them. That's the Dyking District in Woodland. And they've had the fire chief in, and he's talked about it, the Clark Cowlitz fire chief, because they've had experience with this in Woodland, not Woodland, excuse me, Ridgefield, because so they don't get any revenue, but because things have developed, they're now getting all these new calls. So it's an issue for them because they can't increase what they're doing. For the road fund, we're increasing the traffic significantly in an area, and we're not getting any additional revenue for it to maintain those roadways or improve them to meet the new needs. The plan they have laid out,
Losing revenue,
yeah, technically
tax
we're
receipts
losing.
over the next years that would affect roads outside of that area too.
Yes.
and I didn't see anything in the plan, and I could have missed it, that is talking about how they're gonna work on the roads and transportation in and out of that place. If,
Well, and that's a great point. That's another great point.
yeah,
I'm not aware that any businesses are in place. They're just putting this in hopes to bring people in. Is that correct? Because I didn't see any businesses in place.
That is correct.
And I don't know how you're gonna get things approved when they can't get in and out of there.
And that is
It's
also
gonna be
would
very difficult.
be very difficult. And if you read it very carefully, it also says they cannot spend that money outside of that area. So that money cannot go towards improving those two exits.
So any of that type of stuff would be, there'd be some onus on us or the state or surrounding people. It
Yes.
just, I've just got a bad feeling on this and I'm struggling with it because and it doesn't look like it goes to the vote of the people. If they have all their i's dotted and t's crossed and it goes to state treasury and they sign off on it, it's it.
Yes, they hold a public hearing, which my understanding is it's either in March or April. So they hold their public hearing. The port board does. They listen to everybody or not, whatever the board does. They take a vote, they sign off on it, and it just goes up to the state treasurer.
But the public hearing is only to the affected parties, right? It's to the county, it's to the city. It doesn't like go to Castle Rock, does it?
No, it would be,
Affected parties, although the outlying places like Castle Rock and stuff are gonna be affected by this because money is gonna be taken away where we do with roads and other services.
yes.
So I'll be at a Castle Rock meeting next Monday and I'm gonna talk to them about it. They need to know about this stuff. I talked to Calyx too at 911 today and said, you guys better look at this thing. And I'm just, and I bring it out in this meeting because it's a public meeting. If anybody's listening, they need to start looking at this thing.
And it is posted on the port's website, so it's publicly available. It is a law that was passed either in 2020 or 2021.
21.
Yeah, that made this available to ports and cities to go ahead and create these tax.
Tax districts.
Yes, so it's a newer law. That a lot of people are saying they don't think they thought all of these implications through. They thought, oh, this will be a good way for them to be able to pay off. So like, what the fire chief told me in a meeting was he thinks that what the person who proposed it thought was a port that owned like several blocks in an area, and they wanted to make that a taxation district. They would go in and build the infrastructure and get that money from the tax increase to pay off their debt. And they think that was the thought on it, not to go with a whole area, not just a project-specific area. So
5,000 acres.
I know there's lots of talks with the police chiefs on, should we take this to the Supreme Court as a taxation without representation process?
So I've actually fielded 2 phone calls now from citizens in Woodland wanting to know what recourse they have against the port. And my understanding, it's a civil issue if it's anything they have to take it for themselves. But Sean, help me understand how this works, because I tried to figure it out looking at the numbers. Are they taking a loan against future equity based on the tax evaluation in the future? How are they, where's this money coming from outside of the taxpayers that they're looking at this increase in?
My understanding, looking at their documentation from, I believe, November, was the last draft I saw, is that they're planning on using those future tax revenues to pay off the debts they incur to help develop that area. In their economic outlook, it looks like they have a few $100 million of development that's planned in the area that I'm not familiar with. There was no specifics on those.
That's the money I'm wanting to know. Where is that coming from?
That's unknown. I do know they have some development in there. I'm not aware of how they have 100 million or multiples of $100 million of development in the area. The debt that they look like they're taking on is a few millions, nothing of that value. In the impact, it also talks about utility and transportation improvements. I haven't seen any specifics on that. I don't know if Susan has. I also worry about if we do see this industrial growth in this area, how do we build the infrastructure they need to get in and out? That's 100%
That's why I didn't
it.
see that in the
The
plan. either.
water, sewer, electricity, and then sidewalks and roads.
So somebody's got to know what that 100 million is that they're talking about. Because when I looked at it, I thought they were just leveraging hypothetical increased, tax valuations, and that's what they were getting at, because it didn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
So it doesn't make any sense to you either.
Without any additional details, I couldn't understand where that development was coming from.
Okay. Sorry about the rabbit hole, but I wanted to get some of that out before they actually get in here, because there's other things that we've had people in, and then you've talked to me afterwards, and I said, well, I would ask that if I'd have known it, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to get
Oh.
Jennifer to do a workshop for us to come in and talk. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Turned out more robust than you thought your day was gonna be, didn't it? Couple items, Doug sent out that revised, resolution. Did you guys have it on, where we put time limits on, time expectations on permits and stuff?
I didn't see that either.
Okay, so you might look through your email and see if you get a chance to look at that. He took the resolution I sent him and did some changes to it. I think it still looks good, but I want your guys' concurrence, and if it gets there, then we'll hold a workshop and make sure the departments have a chance to see it and stuff.
Okay.
Okay? I have a call in to Carolyn because I got a request on a bill that the auditors group is running, Senate Bill 5154. They were urging our county to add an amendment to it, but I wanted to get some information from her as to what that is before I brought that up, and I haven't heard back from her yet. And then, I would like to call an executive session, probably only 10 minutes, for possible litigation. If you guys don't mind, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, back from executive session, no decisions were rendered. If nothing else,
I do have one thing I wanted
Yeah.
to just bring up. I met with the lady from America 250. She's the state representative with regards to the 250th,
To
anniversary
celebration
of
thing?
Of America. And the counties have been charged with coming up with a committee that is made up of mayors, people from the museum, different organizations within the community to participate in these events, if you will. They have 3 specific dates that they're looking at: Martin Luther King, July 4th, and September 8th, I believe, which is one of the Independence Day programs that they have. And it's a pretty neat program so far. All the counties in the state have decided to participate in it. There's a couple of federal initiatives that they're working on with regards to that program. So I just wanted to talk to you guys. If you're good with it, I'll go ahead and contact all the mayors, superintendents within the schools, and pick a committee and get them started. We don't necessarily have to be in charge of the committee from this point forward. What we're charged with is picking the committee and spearheading that effort, and then letting them, what they want to see is they want to see us integrating this program into our already scheduled activities. So they don't want us to do more. They're just saying, hey, with your Go Forth Festival, integrate, America 250 into that. And they have all sorts of resources and stuff available.
Okay.
For us.
Probably kind of like Longview did with their 100th year anniversary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have a couple of cool things. They've asked us to have somebody, preferably a youth, read the Declaration of Independence on the steps of the courthouse. They've got the state's gonna give a tree to each county for their participation that they want to have planted at a certain time. um, um, at 2:52 or something like that, the time that she gave me, they're asking everybody in the county that's participating to take an American flag out and wave it. And they're actually gonna have, I don't know if they're gonna do it by satellite, but from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, they're gonna see all these flags across the country that are being
wow.
waved. Yeah. And so when I talked to her this morning, there were 47 states that were on board so far. They're still talking to some of the other ones about being on board with it, but it's going to be, sounds like it's going to be pretty neat to celebrate the 250th anniversary. So,
I'm in.
okay,
Yeah.
I'll start on that.
Thank you for
Mhm.
doing that.
Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, we will adjourn. Thank you.